Hello,
Welcome.
including Dr. Marina Bears.
Hello, everyone.
My name is Elaine Atherton, and I'm the head of programs at the Scratch Foundation.
I am Francisco Cervantes, Director of Creative Learning at the wonderful Scratch Foundation, and we are live from Boston, Massachusetts.
Before we get started, let's have a few housekeeping details shared. Automatic English closed captions are available on Hopin anytime just by clicking the CC button at the bottom of the viewing screen. We're also very excited to include a strand of our sessions that will have American Sign Language interpretation. These sessions are marked accordingly in the agenda.
The opening and closing ceremonies, as well as panels and workshops, are translated into Spanish and Portuguese. If a session is being delivered in a language other than English, English listeners should also use the kudo button to select English. Use the kudo button now to switch your languages on the right hand of your screen. Our Scratch team has been very busy this year, and you have also been very busy this year scratching around the world.
When he says scratching around the world, he literally means all around the world. This year, the Scratch Foundation organized and facilitated Scratch Day in Boston to commemorate the 16th anniversary of Scratch. However, Scratch Day is not just one day. Scratch Days are hosted throughout the year in many different geographies to bring together young people from the Scratch and ScratchJr communities to share projects, learn from each other, and welcome newcomers into the Scratch community. This year, over 550 Scratch Days were facilitated around the world.
That is incredible. Huge shout out to our Scratch Day organizers around the world, such as yourselves. The Scratch Education Collaborative, also known as the SCC, has also been moving forward with our third cohort. For those that are unfamiliar with SCC, what would you like them to know about the program, Elaine?
Thank you for asking, Francisco. So we just welcomed 50 organizations into the third cohort of the SCC. It's a 2-year collaborative cohort program. There are now over 175 organizations from over 30 different countries in the SCC, including new geographies joining us, such as Mongolia, Myanmar, Sri Lanka, the Philippines, Hong Kong, Turkey, Colombia, and Thailand. We also have new organizations joining previous cohort members in Brazil, Kenya, Nigeria, the UK, and all over the United States. These organizations get to join a really robust peer network from our previous cohorts and engage in the program over the next 2 years. The SCC, though, is only one of our programs that we use to facilitate engagement with educators. I also want to highlight our Scratch Educator meetups and their amazing network that is engaging over 4,000 members in meetups around the world. We're very proud of the continued growth of our programs at the Scratch Foundation.
Wow, so wonderful. If you represent an SCC organization or participated in the Scratch Educator Meetup as an organizer or been to one before, give your location a shout out in the chat. Thank you for joining us today. We're so happy to have you. I also want to give a huge shout out to our product and engineering teams, including our design team. The most recent release of the new color contrast blocks and color mode in the online editor is just part of our progress on making Scratch more accessible for everyone. In addition, our teams have also published a new version of Scratch Jr. and Scratch Link. I see you, Chris. If you work with younger ages 5 and up, I encourage you to participate in the Scratch Jr. focus sessions throughout today.
So there's no need to take detailed notes throughout the day because all of our sessions, other than the social sessions, will be recorded and shared. The opening and closing ceremonies, our panels, workshops, and Ignite talks will be available on demand after the conference is over in the replay link on the bottom left of the Hopin platform. Please allow about a day for these videos to become available.
If you have questions about the Hopin platform, please visit the help desk, which is located in the expo link on the left of your screen.
I next want to continue our opening session by introducing our co-executive directors, Sarah Smirnoff and Mindy Barham. Sarah and Mindy both joined us at the Scratch Foundation last June. Mindy joins the Scratch team with over 25 years of nonprofit and development experience. Before joining Scratch, she served as a Chief Development Officer for the past 6 years at Grammy in America, a national nonprofit, microfinance organization with a mission to empower women who live in underserved communities to build small businesses and create better lives for their families. Sarah brings over 20 years of experience in education, especially with the technology sector. Before joining the Scratch team, Sarah was Executive Director of New Product Development at ETS, where she and her teams developed prototypes and products for K-12 classrooms, higher education institutions, and the workforce. Sarah brings, with her previous experience, also leading projects and product management with New Vision for Public Schools, with New York City schools, as well as Amplify Learning. Sarah and Mindy, thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Elaine and Francisco, for that wonderful start to the day. My name is Mindy Barham, and together with Sarah Smirnoff, we are the co-executive directors of the Scratch Foundation. Thank you all so much for being here at the Scratch Conference 2023 and for making the time to connect with educators and experts from all over the world who share the same passion and believe in the power of creative learning through coding.
We're so heartened to see you gathered here today. It's amazing to see educators from so many different countries like Mexico, Brazil, the US, India, and Iraq, and from so many different backgrounds. We often say that Scratch and ScratchJr are not tools to learn to code, but rather tools that use coding to learn. And given the wide variety of sessions focused on creative learning we have planned for you today, you all prove that. Your dedication, enthusiasm, and commitment to empowering young learners are truly commendable. You are the driving force behind the success of Scratch and ScratchJr, and we are grateful for your invaluable contributions to the community. Your unwavering support and passion are what continue to propel Scratch forward, enabling it to reach new heights. Just last year, we celebrated crossing 100 million registered users on Scratch. Think of the lives that are now changed because of the work you do with young people, helping them in their journey.
At the heart of the Scratch community lies the spirit of collaboration and sharing. This conference is a testament to the vibrant and supportive community that is formed around Scratch. It is a place where educators, enthusiasts, and learners come together to exchange ideas, share best practices, and collaborate on new projects. We encourage each and every one of you to take full advantage of this conference as a platform for growth, learning, and expanding your networks. Together, we can create an even more powerful and inspiring educational environment. Take what you learn here and implement it in your classrooms, empowering your students to become, with the skills and confidence, to become the innovators and problem solvers of tomorrow. Your work is vital, and your impact extends far beyond the classroom walls.
Thank you again for choosing to spend your day with us. A special thanks to all of those who make our work possible and keep Scratch and ScratchJr free and safe for everyone. Thank you to our amazing network of volunteer translators who help make Scratch accessible to all, to our Scratch team, who make all of this possible, to our board for their leadership and commitment to our mission, to our network of Scratch Educator Collaborative for their participation in this transformative initiative. And thank you to our sponsors and partners that have made this conference and our 2023 event series possible, EPAM Systems, 2 Sigma, and Access CS for All. And now we'll hear from the wonderful Dr. Marina Bears.
Hi, everyone. Thank you, Sarah. This is very, very exciting to be again here at one more time at the Scratch Conference. So for those of you who do not know me, I am Marina Bears and I direct the DevTech Research Group. We used to be at Tufts University, and last year we switched just very close, but also in Boston, to Boston College, the Lynch School of Education. And my whole team, DevTech, came with me, and so our work with ScratchJr continues and is growing. And I want to tell you a little bit about all the exciting things we are working right now with ScratchJr. Of course, if you want to hear more details, I encourage you to go to all the sessions on ScratchJr throughout the day and visit our website and so forth. So as you know, or you might not know, we have developed the coding as another language curriculum, because coding is so important that it serves as a language for expression, as a language for communication. And our focus, as you know, for Scratch Junior and coding as another language is kindergarten, first and second grade. So it's in English, but thanks to our colleagues and the Barkit Foundation, now you can also find it on the website in Spanish. And very, very soon, you'll be able to find it also for kindergarten, first and second grade in Greek and Portuguese through our other colleagues. And you can, for kindergarten, it's also in Hebrew and in Turkish. So this is part of our effort to really expand into many, many multiple languages. And I encourage you to keep checking the website, because as the months go by, you'll find new languages. And if you're interested in translating into your own language, please get in touch with me, send me an email so we can start a collaboration. So that's number one. Number two, here in the United States, we just finished our first randomized controlled study of kindergarten, first and second grades across Rhode Island and Boston Public Schools who are using Scratch Junior. This is really exciting because it's one of the first ever studies that looked at how children learn with Scratch Junior and how does it have an impact on math and literacy. And again, with the Barkey Foundation, we were able to replicate it in Argentina. As you know, that's my home country, in 2 provinces, Mendoza and Corrientes. If you want to hear more about that, we have papers published, happy to share. And we're starting a project with Uruguay. So thanks to the SEC that you've heard Elaine talk about that, we're working with 21 organizations in 12 countries, 5 continents, who speak 11 languages, who are localizing CAL, who are teaching, who are changing it, and documenting their own creative coding experiences and how those change across the world. So a lot of with coding as another language, but if you're interested in bringing it into your own community, how do we go about that? Well, I'm happy to say that we created a new resource online in both English and Spanish that's called TeachCal, that is self-paced asynchronous module where you can learn all about Scratch Junior, but you also can learn about our philosophy and our pedagogy for how to bring coding in creative ways and expressive ways to the young children. So if you are interested in any of this, check out our DevTech website, or even better, if you find yourself in the Boston area, please send us a note, drop by to our beautiful DevTech New Loop space. We have a beautiful makerspace, all designed for early childhood. And so it'd be wonderful to see you around and to meet you. So what I will do now is I will pass to Eric Rosenbaum.
Thank you to Professor Marina Bears. I'm so excited to now introduce Bo Stjerna Thompson, Vice President and Chair of Learning Through Play in the LEGO Foundation. He advises partners around the world as a leading advocate for the value of playful learning. The LEGO Foundation has been a longtime supporter of the Scratch Foundation, as our missions are so closely related, particularly when it comes to creativity and play. Bo, thank you so much for joining us today. Since you're an expert in learning through play, to start off, I'd love to hear about a recent experience where you yourself were learning through play.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Eric, and thank you for hosting this conference to the whole Scratch team. I just love to try new things, and I get a lot of inspiration from my children, my friends, and my wife, who really inspires me to try new things. What seems to occupy a lot of my time professionally and personally is AI right now, particularly generative AI. So we have a lot of fun with things like Midjourney in the family to like, what kind of new animal can you come up with? What's kind of the peer assessment to say which one is the most fun, the most surprising, and so forth. There's such a lot of new tools available. So I find a lot of ways to learn through exploration, through play, through creativity.
Since you mentioned AI, let's go into that a little bit. There's so much excitement and also concern about how it will change how kids learn. What are you hearing from educators, and how are you advising them to approach AI?
Yeah, I think it's really exciting right now. It's rarely that I find and meet communities, both from educators, school principals, administrators, and from the broader community of foundations and corporates who are equally excited about the opportunity, but obviously with some concern. But seems like, in the recent data seems to indicate that more than 50% of educators have tried it, which is pretty high compared to, for instance, parents. Only like 1 out of 3 have heard about it, where 70% of young people have tried it. So they're really trying to look for ways to do that. I think the first thing to keep in mind is obviously about the data safety and security. You don't really know what data it's using. It's really a conversational engine that allows you to kind of have a good natural language processing. But when that's, you're mindful about where it gets the data from, I think there are at least 3 things that are important. And the 3 things I think are important are, first, administratively. Actually, there's a lot of things educators can use it for, to sort through a lot of data, to analyze content. For instance, asking, what kind of ideas could I get for activities to make math in my 6th grade class more active? And then it comes up with a series of ideas. You may not know how the ideas work, but at least it gives you some kind of opportunities to explore that. So taking the whole space from the content to activity and play-based learning is an opportunity. But also, when you get a lot of projects or portfolios or written text from students, you can ask it to just give it a few ideas for what questions you can ask back. So what kind of reflections would one ask based on all that material? So there's a lot of that kind of processing data and helping you to get ideas. And then I really think that the big piece that when we figure out ways to train them more appropriately is around using it with students. Like, when you have a piece of challenges or curriculum or assessment, students can try to come up with different solutions for it, and they can critique each other's ideas. They can try to improve the ideas and so forth. So I think at the end of the day, it leads to much more support for creativity and critical thinking and collaboration, which is not necessarily as good at. And also coming up with ideas for how you can use the materials you have available. So what we're thinking about right now, and actually we have a recent blog post I just wrote with Wendy Kopp from Teach for All at the World Economic Forum that outline 5 key principles educators can think about when they apply AI. But I think the only thing to keep in mind is AI has not really been trained in children or young people or pedagogy. Like, it's really data that, for good reasons, is a little bit of black box, but it is something that I believe can invigorate, get ideas, can probably motivate teachers to be less passive and instructive, to inspire more active forms of engagement.
Bo, thank you so much. You've given us a lot to think about. We can share some links to the things that you mentioned. So thanks again for joining us and chatting with us today. We greatly appreciate it. Let's go now to Scratch co-founder Mitch Resnick and Scratch Community Engagement Manager Kristen Balch.
Thanks, Eric. For those who don't know me, I'm Mitch Resnick, Professor of Learning Research at the MIT Media Lab, and I'm one of the creators of Scratch. And when I thought about what I wanted to talk about at this year's Scratch conference, I wanted to talk about the online community. And in discussing the online community, I think there's no one better to talk with than Kristen Balch, the Scratch Community Engagement Manager, who's lovingly known as CB in the Scratch community. So it's great to be able to talk with you, Kristen.
It's great to be here. Thanks for having me.
From the time that we first launched Scratch 16 years ago in 2007, I've always seen the online community as one of the most distinctive and important aspects of Scratch. It really differentiates and distinguishes Scratch from other platforms that are introducing coding to kids. And Kristen, you've played a big role in the success of the Scratch online community. I think you've worked with the Scratch team for nearly 10 years now, helping to support and inspire and engage young people in imagining and creating and sharing and learning with Scratch. So I'm excited to talk with you about the role and the importance of the community. And I thought it might be useful to start with the Scratch vision statement. That statement says that Scratch aims to spread creative, caring, collaborative, equitable approaches to coding and learning around the world. And I'm hoping that you might be able to share with us, some ideas and examples of how the Scratch Online community supports those 4 really important qualities. So let's start with the first, creative. How is it that you see the community supporting, creative expression?
This is something that we see every day in the online community. Scratch, as you know, is a really lovely tool that allows young people to express themselves and share their interests, their voice, their passion through coding, of course, but also artwork, storytelling, connection and collaboration with peers, and really whatever else they might imagine they could do. And we see this show up in the online community in so many different ways. We see Scratchers create everything from interactive birthday cards to a game about capturing pictures of the Loch Ness Monster. And one of the things that I love the most about the online community is that it allows us to see the many different ways that young people bring their passions and interests to life using Scratch. And every day, Scratchers are sharing new creations that go beyond what we could ever imagine, which I'm sure you've noticed as well in your time in the online community.
I always get so inspired, and amazed at seeing the incredible diversity and creativity of what young people are doing in the online community. So let's go to the second, element. That was creative. I think what also is very special about the community is the caring nature. So what is it that's done to support a culture of caring in the community?
Yeah, so I'm really happy that we're talking about this because caring is one of the things that I cherish the most about the Scratch Online community. And everything that we do in our online community is grounded in our community guidelines. And these are core tenets that everyone agrees to when they join Scratch. And they act a bit as a North Star that guide all of our interactions in the online community. And these guidelines open with our core values, which is that Scratch is a friendly and welcoming community for everyone where people create, share, and learn together. And then it continues on to say that we welcome people of all ages, races, ethnicities, religions, abilities, sexual orientations, and gender identities. And what we're doing with these is we're encouraging Scratchers to foster a kind community. And this shows up on Scratch in a lot of different ways. It's using constructive commenting when sharing feedback on each other's work. It's a young person sharing their ideas and embracing remix culture, where others can learn from what they've done, and they in turn can do the same from others who inspire them in the community. It's thousands of young people coming together to say Black Lives Matter. It's a young person coming out and finding a community of people there to celebrate them and support them. It's random acts of kindness during a global pandemic. It's all of these things, and it's more. And I think engaging with the Scratch Online community really provides an opportunity for Scratchers at an early age to practice empathy and kindness in our online spaces. And this is something that I hope to see reflected in spaces elsewhere on the internet as we see more generations of Scratchers growing up and going out into the world. Also, it would be remiss of me not to mention a few people who helped make all this possible. So I wanted to give a special shout out and thank you to our community engagement specialists, as well as our team of moderators who are working all the time in our online community in support of these efforts.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I wish interactions in the world could be like those in the Scratch community. And I do think this leads, naturally to that next quality. We've talked about creative, caring. Next is collaborative. So I think with caring, you talked about the ways people interact with each other in the community. Maybe you could say a little about the different ways that people work together, share, and collaborate with one another.
Yeah, so I think you actually mentioned this, but I think that community is really at the heart of what makes Scratch special. Being able to share your passions and your interests with your peers is a critical piece of the creative learning journey. And I think that the online community really offers an opportunity for Scratchers to do this, to find audience and inspiration, and to collaborate with their peers. And one of the ways in which we see collaboration happening on Scratch is through remixing. For anyone who is unfamiliar with remixing in Scratch, it's when you build upon someone else's projects, codes, ideas, images, or anything else that they share on Scratch to make your own unique creation. And everything on Scratch is remixable, which means that Scratchers can add their own ideas to any project that they see. And what this does is it opens up a whole community of potential collaborators and also extends creative possibilities to young people who are brand new to coding as well. And we've seen Scratchers use our collaboration tools like the Remix tool, like the Backpack tool, and even Studios to create really incredible things. Things like Maps, which are multi-animator projects that combine the work of dozens of Scratchers to create something brand new, like a music video. or even something like a thematic studio, which helps bring together young people who are interested in the same topics. And in our online community, we see how often Scratchers seek out opportunities to connect and collaborate with their peers from around the world. And the results from that are always really inspiring and really amazing.
Yeah. And I think that we want to make sure that all of those wonderful experiences are, available for kids from diverse backgrounds. So I think that fourth quality of equitable, I think one thing that we're trying to make sure that Scratch is welcoming to people and provides a sense of belonging for people from all different backgrounds. So maybe you can talk a little about how, the community helps support that.
Yeah. So I think really all of the things that we've talked about are in support of creating a sense of equity and belonging within the online community. Grounding ourselves in the community guidelines, cultivating a kind, caring community where young people can express their creativity and collaborate with their peers, all help build an environment where young people can feel welcome and safe to be their most authentic self. And we strive to ensure that the Scratch Online community is a space where differences are welcomed and where every individual feels a sense of belonging. One of the things that we're proudest of is the ways in which young people in our community create and maintain identity-based spaces that become invaluable sources of support and community. And I think it's things like these that are such a great example and reminder of how Scratch isn't just a coding platform, but it's also a means of community building for young people with shared experiences and interests from around the world.
Yeah. Well, thanks so much. I really think the examples you gave really help highlight why I'm so excited about the Scratch community. And I hope some of the educators, that are participating in today's conference, if they haven't, tried it out, can join in and explore the possibilities of the community. So thanks a lot to you, Kristen, but also to all the others on the Scratch community moderation and engagement teams for helping to make sure the community is such a safe, welcoming, and friendly place. With that, we'll pass it off to Tracy and Prasant.
Thanks so much, Mitch and Kristen. And the online community is always a great source of inspiration for me and for many, many people. And so, hi, everyone. I am Tracy Tang, Outreach and Engagement Manager at Scratch Foundation. I'm originally from Hong Kong, but now I'm based in London in the UK. And today I'm joined by my colleague, Prashant.
Hi, everyone. Thanks, Tracy. I'm Prashant. I'm also part of the outreach and engagement team, and I'm based all the way in Bangalore in India. And it's really exciting to be here. And I'm particularly excited about, all the cool sessions that we're going to have today. So some of the sessions I'm personally interested are, for example, the ones in diversity and inclusion, like the Scratch Junior Tactile, or the sessions around AI or socio-emotional learning. Tracy, what about you? What are some sessions that you're excited by?
Yeah, I am super excited because so many sessions are happening in parallel. So I really wish that I could clone myself, just like in Scratch, so that I could go to all the sessions. But like you mentioned, the Scratch Junior Tactile session is something that I'm very excited about as well. Because I noticed that this year, a lot of sessions have a theme on diversity and accessibility. So this is very important for us because how to spread creative coding in an equitable way, just like CB and Mitch discussed, is very important for us. And apart from that, I also know that Prashant, you're going to have a panel discussion with our friends and partners from different parts of the world about hackathon. And it's actually to approach hackathon in a way that fosters creativity and teamwork, which is probably a bit different from what people think of hackathon usually. So I think that is also very exciting and interesting.
Yeah, while we're excited about hackathons, I know you're taking us through a session on the really fun Scratch backpack feature. So that's something that I know a lot of people are looking out for to really learn about, how you can build and customize your own assets and make your learners feel like they're really at home when they're using Scratch. So what are some questions you think that people should be thinking about, pondering about while they're going through all of these sessions over the course of the day?
Yeah, so I think keeping 1 to 2 questions at the back of my mind throughout the conference will be very helpful and effective for me to learn, because otherwise I get very overwhelmed easily. So I think one question to ponder for myself and maybe for some of you as well is, what is one thing that I can take away today and to try out with my learners and educators? So actually bringing, theory into practice and see how to adapt it to my own context. I think just one thing, not to be greedy, and that will be the question that I will keep at the back of my mind. What about you? What is your question to ponder?
Awesome. I feel like for me, like many other participants and educators, I've already been using Scratch for many years. So what the question I'd like to think about is, how is the work that you're doing or I'm doing with the learners that we serve different or similar to other approaches that we're learning through the conference? Because I've found that comparing approaches with the way that I would approach something with something I learn new is really exciting, and it's a great way to kind of center what I'm picking up through the conference. And with that, thank you, Tracy, for sharing, the different things that you're excited about. I'm really thrilled to hand off to Alan Antoine and Dr. Sonal Patel, who will lead us through a conversation about broadening participation in computing.
Thank you very much, Prashant. And a special thank you to the Scratch team for having us. I'm so excited to be here this morning, getting a chance to participate in my third Scratch conference in a row. I've built so many positive relationships all over the globe over the past few years by being more active in the Scratch community. And this year, I have the absolute pleasure of getting a chance to talk to one of my favorite people, one of my fellow CSTA Equity Fellows, Dr. Sonal Patel. Sonal.
Hi, everyone. I'm so excited to be here. It was truly wonderful to participate in the Equity Fellowship Program, where I met Alan for the first time and multiple other inspiring individuals who I continue to call my family and friends. Major shout out to some really instrumental mentors of mine, Shayna Glass and Lily Mora, who are probably listening here today. And I just want to tell you a little bit about the fellowship program. It's a community of educators that come together to continue to gather to develop leadership in equitable teaching practices and advocacy. And it really inspired me, and I know it inspired Alan and several others, to think about how we can truly broaden participation and accessing the computer science space, especially for those who are continuing to be underrepresented in computer science fields. If you want to learn more about this program, please feel free to visit csteachers.org. There's so much to tell you about it.
Yeah, I definitely co-sign that message. And something that Sonal and I have in common is that we're both very passionate about ensuring that all communities are represented in this ever-changing computing space. But broadening participation in computing isn't just about representation. When we open up pathways for diverse groups and nurture unique perspectives, the computing technologies of tomorrow will be more innovative and inclusive and create a more equitable future for everyone. Sonal, would you mind sharing with us some of the things that you're doing to make this idea into a reality?
Absolutely. Thanks, Alan. Well, here at our county office in California, we've engaged in a variety of different initiatives, including the creation of our Computer Science Equity Network, which includes educators, administrators, counselors, and other key educational partners of diverse backgrounds. We also have our Computer Science Trailblazers, led by my amazing colleague, Dr. Sharisa Chan. Both groups not only created a collective vision to broaden participation and increase access to a high quality and rigorous, culturally responsive computer science education, but they also put that vision into action, and they do that every single day. In addition to this, right now we're actually involved in implementing what we call the Seasons of CS. I know it sounds great. It is great. Please do visit seasonsofcs.org to learn more. But this is a partnership with multiple county offices across California, as well as the State Department of Education and our University of California, LA's Computer Science Research Team. Seasons of CS is actually a research-backed professional learning model for K-12 educators, paraprofessionals, admin, and counselors who are interested in bringing computer science to their students. And the goal of this program is actually to expand systematic capacity for equitable, scalable, and sustainable computer science education in California. The best thing about this is actually that we have a large community of people that gather regularly, that have this inviting, inclusive setting that really cultivates that sense of belonging that Kristen and Mitch talked about earlier on today. It's truly a wonderful community. However, I do have to tell you a little bit about Alan. Alan and several other people have been advocating about this particular work, building upon what I just talked about. I know your team of equity fellows have worked on something called the Setup CS framework. And I invite you to talk a little bit more about that, Alan.
Yeah, I don't mind talking about that. I'd be remiss if I didn't say that Sana was our mentor in the Equity Fellowship this year, and she gave us all of the help we needed. So part of my Equity Fellowship experience, I had the distinct pleasure of working with Andrea Wilson Vasquez of the ESEP Alliance and Dr. Michelle Noel Magallanes of the Avid Center to create a free framework that school districts can use to assist them in quite literally setting up their computer science pathways, but with equity at the center. It's been a really fun project to this point. In addition to this, in my role as the EPIC Director of Computer Science Education Strategy at the University of Texas at Austin's Advanced Computing Center, I've been able to lead the Computing Educator Diversity Initiative for the past few years. This project is really near and dear to me, and it's allowed us to create a community of practice amongst Texas teachers who've been historically excluded in computing, a lot of times teachers of color, and give them the skills necessary to become certified computer science teachers and to teach those courses in a culturally responsive and sustaining way. Also, I've had the pleasure of co-creating the Strategies for Effective and Inclusive Computer Science Teaching course. This online course really delves into what I just mentioned, how to teach computer science while still embracing diversity and focus on equitable access. It's also free for teachers, so feel free to contact me for more details about this. So in this broadening participation space, I lead a diversity initiative, I'm an equity fellow, and I've drafted a course on inclusion. That sounds like 3 check marks for DEI. I know. Those words may be scary in your schools and communities these days, but let me just say this. You can ban those words, but you can't ban the work. And there's absolutely work to be done.
Wow. All right, Alan, I'm forever in awe of all of the work that you have done in the computing space, especially as it concerns implementing equitable CS programs, but more importantly, how much work you've added to the field. Let's move into Scratch. We're here today for this Creative Coding Conference, and I'm so excited to be here. How have you personally been using Scratch for creative coding experiences?
Yeah, definitely. Scratch has been a great tool to advance this work at many steps in my professional journey, like especially when I first started. In addition to my work with educators, I've also worked with K-12 students, and Scratch has been what I use to introduce them to computing concepts. What I really love is that this is really a low floor, high ceiling platform. I've used like basic sprites to teach concepts like data types, conditionals, and loops, but I've also used Scratch across content areas to have students make their own programs and use them to learn concepts in subjects like Algebra 1 and physical science. An even more timely way that I've been using Scratch is to introduce artificial intelligence topics to students. Bard, ChatGPT, DALL-E 2, they're all over. My whole social media feed this morning is full of folks using Rimini to make jazzy selfies for themselves on the ground. AI is everywhere. I recently had an article published in CSTA's Voice called Black GPT, 5 reasons that Black students should learn about and use AI models. I strongly believe that AI is a field that's going to continue to grow, and we need all students represented in this space. One way that I've personally introduced students in my community to this topic is by running workshops that use machine learning for kids. I'm not sure if y'all are familiar with that. Great project. It's a project-based introduction to AI using Scratch that allows students to train AI models and watch them work in real time. Sanal, what are some of the ways that you've sparked creative connections using Scratch?
Thanks, Alan. Well, I talked to you earlier about the group of computer science trailblazers. They're not just trailblazers. They are amazing educators who last year worked with their students, worked on creating solutions for problems that they truly care about using the United Nations global goals. So one project I remember visiting a school, and one project that I landed upon was a group of students who cared deeply about the prevention of cyberbullying. Several students had created interactive stories and games on Scratch to promote online safety and address cyberbullying. Ultimately, when we take an asset-based approach in the CS classroom and give these types of engaging experiences, especially in a field like computer science, we're creating interest, opportunities, and excitement in CS all the time. As we conclude here today, I just want to thank you all for listening and thank Alan for having me here with him today. It's such an honor.
Look, we could talk for a whole hour, but they only gave us a certain amount of time. But with that, we'd like to thank you all for spending some time with us this morning and to kick off the conference. And with that, we're going to hand it back over to the Scratch team.
Thank you both. Now, we'll hear from Scratchers who are part of the Scratch Education Collaborative Network. First, we'll hear from Mohammed from Kodo Dojo, Iraq.
Hi, I am Mohammed. I am from Kodo Dojo, Iraq. اللي خلاني أسوي لعبة سكراش هو إني أحب الألعاب. قررت إني أصنع لعبة من سكراش لأنه برنامج سهل وممتع التعامل معه. اللي ألهمني إني أصنع برنامج سكراش لأن بالعام الماضي نفذنا لعبة عن السفينة فيها النادي. فقررت أن أن أطورها بإضافة مستويات جديدة. التحديات اللي واجهتني في هاي اللعبة هو إرسال الرسائل أو المسج إلى الكائنات وحليته من خلال البحث. الشيء المفضل عندي في سكراش هو البلوكس لأنها طريقة مختلفة في البرمجة وتكون ملونة فيسهل تمييزها وتكون معها البرمجة ممتعة أكثر. الشيء اللي أتمناه أو هو هدفي إنه يصير بسكراش هو إنه أصنع لعبة معقدة وممتعة تكون مشهورة بين العالم. شعوري هو إنه أشعر بالفخر والإثارة لأني أشارك اللعبة مع العالم. النصيحة أعطيها لأي شخص يريد يتعلم سكراش هو إنه يبدأ خطوة خطوة بالتعلم ويبدأ من الأشياء السهلة ثم الصعبة. أنا جدا أشكر دكتورة ونادي البرمجة لأنهم ساعدوني إنه أحقق هواي من أحلامي ومنهم إنه خلوني أشارك بالأسترو باي والبايثون والسكراش.
Thank you, Mohammed. It was really cool to see what you created. Now, we'll hear from Naga, who's a student from Penang Science Cluster, and learn more about his project.
Hello, my name is Nago Prana and I'm 14 years old. So I'm a tech geek and I really love to explore new technologies as well as targeting certain world issues which I feel that need to be addressed in order to ensure the society's well-being. So my project startup is designed to raise awareness and address the threats faced by the Malayan tapir. This interactive and educated game features 5 threats, some of which include facing poachers, deforestation, flooding, and bear traps. These threats have been designed to be as close to reality as possible. So as the person enjoys controlling the character, they can simultaneously learn about world environmental issues as well as the plights of the animal they are controlling. Scratch has over 104 million concurrent users. I decided that making this educational game will widen my audience base and raise more awareness regarding the tapir. I believe the Scratch is user-friendly to the gamer and as it does not involve downloading the game, anyone with a stable internet connection can access my game, encouraging them to play. From a developer point of view, Scratch is easy to code with given its drag and drop block feature and there's an option to make custom blocks which allows me to include complicated functions that improve the aesthetic of the game. This game includes 3 accessibility features. It is bilingual, it is mobile, and it is colorblind friendly as well. I believe that color blindness is often neglected when it comes to gaming and content consumption. Thus, I would like to tackle this issue and push the limits of what is possible on Scratch. I have included contrasting colors and borders which have been verified using colorblind simulators like Coblis. And the SAV is all about raising awareness of the Malayan tapir. I've included a joystick to make it multi-device compatible and bilingual to widen my audience spectrum and to make it more authentic among the Malay audience. I would like to be a voice for the Malayan tapir as it is a special breed of tapir only found in Indonesia and Malaysia. This creature is only on the brink of extinction and I would like to play my part in restoring its status from endangered to least concern.
Thank you, Naga, for sharing your project with us. That was really inspiring. Now, I'll pass it on to Marin from the Scratch Foundation team.
Thanks, Al.
Thank you so much, Prashant. It was fun to see what Scratchers are creating. And now I'd like to introduce 3 longtime Scratchers who have taken their passion for coding and founded nonprofit organizations to bring coding education and Scratch to more of their peers. First, we'll hear from Yuko, and then we'll hear from sisters Harita and Sharda.
My name is Yuko. I'm from Japan, more specifically Kyoto in Japan. I've been interested in coding from a pretty young age. I was around 8 years old when I started. I started with Johns Hopkins Center for Talented Youth. They had an online program that introduced students to Scratch, and it was a very easy way for an 8-year-old to get interested in coding. I started going to a math school in San Francisco, and it was very focused on STEM, and so were a lot of the students. And I had my very first experience where I was a clear minority, but I was the only student in the entire grade that was a girl. It kind of continued to happen as a pattern throughout middle and high school, where even if you're not the only girl, you're probably one of 3 or 4 girls in an entire classroom or club. And that experience really inspired me to start looking into why there are so few women in STEM, especially young girls, and what happens and how I can kind of help with that issue. When I moved back to Japan, I realized that these issues, they were even more prevalent than they are in the US. And I also recognize that in general, Japanese students have less access to fun ways to learn coding. So I started World Coding Club with another girl, and so it's really cool that there's 2 female leaders in the organization. We started by offering hackathons for students in Japan, and one of the things that we've been focusing on is for this to be an opportunity for students in Japan to learn coding, but even more for girls who are participating to feel comfortable when they're learning and to not feel like they are a minority. For She-Quality, it was a very similar experience. I moved back to Japan and I realized that feminism is so different depending on your geographical location. So when I switched to an online school from 10th grade, I had a lot of classmates who were from different countries, which meant I had a lot of schoolmates who were girls and also interested in feminism from around the world. And so we just started writing more casual articles about women's rights issues and feminism as a form of activism in our respective countries in order to, share the differences, similarities, and the interesting things about how feminism is in different places and how that impacts politics and pop culture.
Thank you, Yuko, for sharing your inspiring story of founding not just one, but 2 organizations. And now we'll hear from sisters Harita and Sharda.
We started off programming around when we were 5, and it was actually our dad who introduced us to Scratch because he was the one who downloaded the Scratch offline editor on his computer.
Since we've always been around computers ever since we were young, we've always had that little bit of curiosity for computer science, which has only grown throughout the coming years because of Scratch and other platforms that have helped us find the true fun in computer science.
We started Little Apple Academy during the COVID-19 pandemic. When I was in my 8th grade year and my younger sister was in her 6th grade year, we enjoyed tutoring other students in our school and our classmates. And we noticed that there was a gap in programming. In our live classes, we've reached around 10 different countries. And in our online classes, where we reach a lot of students, we've reached
over
130 countries. And in our live classes specifically, we have students come from all around the world.
We want Little Apple Academy to expand to 3 different ways. First of all, we want to expand our online courses because kids from all over the world can take those. The second one is continuing our live classes because this way we can get live feedback from students. We can see their reactions. We can see what they like, what to add to our curriculum, what they would like to see. And the last way is setting up our local classes. For a while, we've been wanting to do in-person classes, but it's kind of been a hassle to find a location, find how we're going to do advertising. So we're trying to figure that out right now.
We want to have Little Apple Academy grow as we grow and to introduce some new, more difficult concepts. Currently, we do advanced classes for some of our students. These parents sign up for our more difficult classes, and that's how we get funding. And we usually take this funding and put it into our smaller sub-projects, which are focused on giving back to the community. We donate a set number of brown bag lunches. So we donate 40 brown bag lunches to local emergency shelters. And the whole purpose behind that is because we noticed that during the COVID-19 pandemic, homelessness rates and situational homelessness rates especially have been exacerbated in our community, and our community is also a food desert, which means that there's very little access to nutritious foods that are affordable as well.
We really want to give back to the community that's given us so much.
Thank you both so much for sharing your coding journey with us and all the amazing work you're doing with students and in your community. And now I'll turn it back to Francisco and Elaine.
Thank you, Maren, and everyone else who's joining us today. That was incredible. I loved hearing those different stories. We're talking about being intentional about creating the spaces, encouraging exploration and creativity is so incredible to see how folks are doing that, being caring and collaborative, as well as expressing kindness in your work, not only through a Scratch project, but in how you connect with others, how you build with others. And it's a super exciting day, and we're just getting started. I also like to really call out Tracy and Prashant's questions for us to ponder throughout the day. What is one thing that you will take back and try out with your learners, educators? What do you want to share with a friend? The other that really stood out to me as well is, how is the work you're doing with learners different or similar to other approaches you're learning throughout the conference? So what are some similarities? What can we pick up? What do we want to change? Tag us on social media, use the chat in the platform to share your responses and your thoughts throughout the day.
Yeah, I also definitely want to highlight and say thank you again to our youth speakers joining us today. Scratch is always focused on being child-centered, and it really, really opens our minds and just bursts our hearts when we see our youth continuing to pour into their communities, be empathetic, and lead with kindness. That is our biggest hope. Now, let's get ready for the day. To choose your day, go to reception and then choose schedule. You'll then click the bookmark icon in any segment and choose add it to my agenda. All of today's panels and Ignite talks will take place on stages. All workshops and social sessions will be in the social tab.
And what is a social session, Elaine?
You don't know what a social session is, Francisco? Our social sessions are really exciting 30-minute discussions on different topics, such as getting creative across the curriculum, Scratch Jr. for diverse learners, creative learning with the Scratch offline app, which we know many, many, many people use around the world, and more. There are 8 concurrent sessions that are going to begin happening at 12:35 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. But you can join us for our first social session right after the opening ceremony at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time for our Meet the Scratch Team session. Each session is going to be facilitated by a Scratch Foundation friend or partner.
Yeah, and when you have time, we also invite you to go check out and contribute to the virtual poster session. From the reception page as well, on the left-hand side, scroll down to the virtual poster session section to check out some of the good work happening around the world.
All right, we will see you later this afternoon. We're excited to see you in all the different sessions throughout the day. Please make sure you're reaching out to the help desk if you have further questions.
Yeah, and we'll hear from special guests at the end of the day, founder Mitch Resnick, Carmela Persice, and Chris Scarity as we reflect on the day together.
See you soon.